Welcome back. It's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review. And today from McFarlane Toys, we are featuring the DC Superheroes or it's DC Superpowers Batman. It's new for 22, Nouveau por 22, and Nuevo para 22. So it's trilingual. So this I purchased recently at my local Walmart. If you grew up during the 80s, you'll remember Kenner's old Superpowers line of action figures. And so McFarlane Toys, they're trying to recreate that whole vibe. First off with the card packaging, which is very retro. It's a nice throwback to the toys we got way back when. Even the action figures themselves, they're kind of designed in that retro style. So you're looking at maybe 5 points of articulation, if I'm guessing, or maybe 7, because I think the knees are articulated also. Beautiful card art. I think this is the artwork of artist Jim Lee. On the back, Superpowers Batman. Collect them all. And in the first wave, we have Superman, Darkseid, Batman, the Batwing, and the Supermobile. We also have this very lovely biography on the character. It's nice that we have this. I say this in multiple videos. I kind of wish they'd give us, some background information on the characters, and in this case, they actually do. So kudos to McFarlane Toys for that. All right, so we're gonna take this thing out and see, what kind of figure this is. All right, just a word of caution. The cape is separated from the character, and it actually has one of those plastic ties threaded through the cape. So I would suggest having like a pair of scissors or nail clippers on hand, just so you could cut this off. Don't attempt to rip the cape out, because you'll most likely, do some damage to the cape, and you don't want that. It's kind of unfortunate that they did that with the cape, to have that plastic piece of tie going through it, because it's already done some damage to the cape. As you can see there, there's a big hole in there, so that's kind of disappointing. I don't think that was necessary for them to do that, but I guess that's the case. To be honest, I was surprised that the cape here is actually a really cool material too. It's nice and reflective and shiny, very soft. So if you're going to seat Batman, like, I'm guessing they'll give us a Batmobile in the future. He'll be able to sit in it comfortably without removing the cape. So the big question for me is, does this figure here feel like one of the older style Kenner figures or Toy Biz figures from the 80s? And right now, it kind of does, to be honest. The physique of the figure is kind of odd, though. He looks he's very barrel chested, which I don't mind. But I don't know, there's something about this that feels a little bit off. I'm not sure what it is just yet, but it's not necessarily off like in a bad way. It just feels a little bit somewhat different. All right, so let's get his cape on. So as you can see here, the cape, if you remember some of like the old superhero toys we got during like the 80s and 90s, there's kind of like that plastic ring at the collar. And, this kind of has that also. I'm not sure if this is a flexible plastic underneath or what, so don't go too nuts with this. Try to attach it gently onto the character, which we're going to do right now. it's kind of hard, to be honest. It's kind of hard to get a clean look with this style of cape towards the top. It kind of wants to billow up, and it doesn't want to lay flat. So, you know, there might be better solutions to this, but that's what the figure is going to look like with the cape on. Which for some people it might be kind of off-putting because it's kind of unsightly at the top. It's not as clean as like some of the older figures we got like a long time ago, back in the 80s and 90s. And I'll take out one of those older figures, you know, much later in this review to run a comparison. But for now, let's take a look at this. This is the McFarlane DC Superpowers Batman. This is from the first wave. I like the colors a lot. You know, this is kind of capturing Batman's in the blue and the gray. I would like it a little bit more if they gave him the oval logo with the yellow and the black bat. I know this is kind of a modern, you know, more modern take on Batman, especially if you read like the comic book Hush, because it looks like they're pulling cues from Jim Lee's version of the character, especially with the horns and the style of head and the chest here. But I mean, visually it looks great. You know, it really does capture that 80s feel for those kind of like style of action figures. So we have a nice gray. The head sculpt is pretty well done. From certain angles, there's something about the brow and the eyes with the nose. It looks more like Catman than it does Batman. If you're familiar with the DC villain Catman. I love the bat emblem. It's nicely done. The utility belt looks great. I think they did a great job there. And this is my favorite version of Batman with the briefs over the pants. The boots look nice. It's very simple. You know, this figure looks like what it's supposed to look like. I think the thing that bothers me the most, though, is the cape. How it, like, piles up around the collar like that. So we'll take a look at the articulation, and when we do that, we'll just remove the cape just so we can see the movement a little bit better. Alright, so Batman's head rotates. His arms rotate. And the plastic quality feels nice. You know, you can kind of feel where the arm is going to like slot into the indent, if that makes any sense. When you rotate it, you can kind of figure out where the neutral position is. It feels like it's going to kind of like settle into place a little bit harder than in certain areas. But the plastic quality feels nice. Doesn't feel too gummy. It feels it feels rigid, but not like brittle, if that makes sense. There is no waist swivel. The legs kick up. All right, mine feels. All right, yeah, okay. It felt stuck. All right, there you go. That one's loosened up also. Kicks up about there, and the knees bend. Now, for me, it's important that the legs could fully bend like this, because this style of action figure, you know, they accommodate like playsets in vehicles, and most of the time the characters need to be seated, and they need to be put in this position. So it's nice that you could like actually articulate them in this position, and you can even get the knees to bend. Alright, so I think the question on hand is, if you're an older collector, how does this stack up or feel next to like an older style figure? And I have a couple on hand right now. These are the older Kenner Batman action figures. And this one's a Toy Biz DC Superheroes. It's kind of like Toy Biz's attempt at recreating that whole like Superpowers line. Right, so let's compare it next to a Kenner Batman action figure. And as you can see, in terms of the height, they're roughly about the same height. The musculature is a little bit different. I think proportion-wise, this one does a better job of having a little bit more realistic proportions. This one kind of has like a really long head. I do prefer this torso more. I think the musculature on the chest and abdomen here is better defined than this one. Same with the biceps. I think this one has better designed arms than the McFarlane one. The McFarlane one's nicer because it actually offers knee articulation, where these older Kenner style figures, these are simple 5 points of articulation. The older Kenner figure too, they do a better job with the cape. As you can see here, it's the same similar kind of design. It's like a plastic ring, and it wraps around the neck. And on the McFarlane figure, on the Batman one at least, when you put the cape on, it kind of, I don't know, kind of like piles up, and it's not as clean as a look. The Kenner one looks a lot smoother, a lot sleeker. The contours from the head to the shoulders with the cape, it looks nice. You don't even think twice about it. Where here, it almost looks like he has his hood down, but there is no hood, if that makes any sense. I think what works in the Kenner's advantage is the fact that it looks like they made the neck slightly longer, just to accommodate for that kind of plastic ring over there. So I do think the Kenner one has a better overall cape design, but the material on the McFarlane cape is really well done. I like this material a lot. So I do think McFarlane did a good job, recreating the feel of these older style action figures. If I had to rate this guy on a scale of 1 to 10, just to be fair, I think this guy's about a 7. Because I have a feeling that down the road we'll get more Batmans, which seems inevitable. And I think with every other Batman we get in the future might be an improvement, upon this one. So I think for a first attempt at a Batman, I think this is pretty decent, but it's not perfect. Do I think it's better than a Kenner figure? Only in the sense that it has the knee articulation. The Kenner figures don't have that. So if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, and if the old Toy Biz superheroes or the Kenner superpowers figures was something that you're very fond of as a child, I think this is a nice touch. It's a nice throwback. You're going to get a lot of nostalgic feels handling this figure. But at the same time, I think if you have a nice collection of these Kenners, or even the Toy Biz ones, it might be questionable on how bad you really need this. Like one of my buddies was pointing out, it seems like you're buying these figures more so for the card art and the packaging, since it's very retro and a throwback. And that might be the case. If you already have a loose collection of the Kenner stuff, this could be a pass. That's what I kind of feel like. But who knows? I think as they expand the roster, depending on how deep they go into it, and if they give us more vehicles and play sets, this is something that could be an option. If you're more keen on retro figures than you are on the newer stuff, this might be your jam. Alright, so let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you're a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.